Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of the Pursuit of Precision podcast with Jeff Bonnani. He was the first franchisee for Pet Supply Plus and then turned that into an incredibly successful commercial real estate portfolio over time. This was an unbelievable episode that is going to inspire a ton of you, and I hope you stay tuned in through the entire episode. Check it out. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pursuit of Precision podcast. My name is Ryan Jaros, and over the next 12 months, I'm interviewing 50 of the most successful, intelligent, influential, and overall happy people that I can in order to hear their story and share with all of you what I learn along the way. Today, we are so grateful to have Jeff Bonnani in to be here with us. Appreciate you making the time.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, guys, Jeff Bonnani is the first franchisee for Pet Supply Plus and a commercial real estate investor. So I'm going to let you dive into a little bit more of what your day-to-day looks like as a whole. But guys, he's an incredible businessman and someone that I think you're going to learn a lot from. So thank you again for making the time to be here.
Thank you for having me again. So it's a little different, my day-to-day as it was maybe 10 years ago, but still we opened...
Just responsibility-wise.
Responsibility-wise, yeah, because luckily I have some good people and they take a lot of the heat. So
yeah.
But in today's what it looks like is we still have Pet Supplies Plus stores. We have 3.
Okay.
In Metro Detroit, 1 in Ann Arbor, Clinton Township, and Sterling Heights. So, but over the course of the years, I've had parts of like 14 stores.
Okay.
And it all started back in 1989, and we can go into that at a later date.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell me a little bit about, I guess, just dive into like the infrastructure. How many employees do you have?
So at Pet Supplies Plus, we have about 120 probably employees.
Okay.
And at Pet Supplies Plus, we have, of course, pet food and supplies and grooming and dog wash. So different aspects of that business. And it's changed, and you have to evolve as things evolve in the world today.
So what does that infrastructure look like? So obviously you have the people that you walk into the store, they greet you, they do the normal stuff.
Right. So we have the sales associates, we have the like a cashier and a stock person and a key holder who helps out with the manager at the front end for overrings, refunds, things like that. And then you have your general manager, and usually there's a co-manager under him or her. So they pretty much take care of the store, and I get involved when I need to. And I oversee numbers every day, and I go through weekly sales, and we have a meeting with my general manager, Brian, who's been with me since 1990.
Holy smokes. Okay. Yeah. And so what is his responsibility?
So his responsibility is overseeing
all the different locations?
Exactly. So when we just sold 3 locations in North Carolina. So he he would oversee all 6 of those stores.
Okay.
So everybody answered to Brian, and when Brian had a problem, he would come to me.
Is Brian pumped about the downgrade?
Brian is happy because now he is a partner in 2 of our 3 stores that we
Wonderful.
still have. Yeah. So cool. Clinton Township, I opened in 1990. He's the general manager of that store and as well oversees the other 2 stores, which he's a partner in.
Got it.
So we made him a partner because he's been such a great asset to us for all these years. So he oversees and does those. So we have the Pet Supplies Plus stores, and I go in, not like I used to, but I still put in my 5 days a week, but it's could be as little as 2-3 hours, as many as 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Where in the past it was 6-7 days a week, 10-12 hours a day.
Really?
Oh yeah. At the beginning, in 1989 when we opened up, I worked until 1999, 6 days a week. The first 5 years it was 7 days a week, and my wife would come after she worked at now it's Chase. It used to be NBD Bank. She would come over, and we'd work together at the pet store, and then we'd go home, and we did that ritual she finally ended up quitting when we could afford her to quit. But But we did that ritual for many years, and then when she was pregnant, it was good that she stayed home with the kids and took care of that, because it was still, I worked 6-7 days for all those years, and it was a lot. And it's good to have a partner that I didn't have to worry about the house. I didn't have to worry about things like that. And she was there, and I met her in 1985 when I had a pizzeria over at 18 DeQuinder. Ironically, do
you mind if I just want to get back to where we're at? We can get into this.
Okay,
we'll get there. We'll get there. So what is your day-to-day in regards to managing all the employees? Are you meeting with, because like you said, you still go into do you go to each of the locations?
Yeah, so I'll go to the location. I go to Clinton Township. My general office is there, and I have my office staff there, takes care of all the businesses that we have.
Okay.
So I go there, I walk the store, I'll talk to whoever's in charge, go through that. And then I'll go to Sterling Heights and Ann Arbor periodically and meet up with my general manager or my owner or my partner, Brian, and we'll go through what's going on there. On a daily basis, though, I can delve into something called the SOC, which I can see what's going on at every store, what has to be accomplished at every store. So yeah, we do that. I'll call the managers or I'll call whoever's in charge and make sure, hey, this is getting done, that's getting done. So yeah, still I'm involved in a day-to-day. I watch the numbers every single day. If there's a problem, a shortage, a problem with an employee or whatever, we'll get into it. As the years goes on, this is 34 years now. So
Crazy.
Yeah, it's a long time. And so I've learned now, like I put these people in place for a reason. So at this point now, I don't want to get involved in why some guy was late coming into work. Okay, now that time is over. But but through the years, I mean, I had to do all that stuff. I was the guy. I was the only person until I was fortunate enough to start grabbing some people in the past to do like district managed type stuff.
For sure. And then when do you? So obviously you do.
So I do
you're
that.
in investments as well.
Right.
So
I go. That pet thing happens when I get to the office. In the morning, I go work out in the morning, and then I go there.
Yeah.
And
unless you come here, so grateful.
Yeah. You got me because I just left the gym, which is across the street. So, at any rate, then I'll get into whatever real estate is coming up. There's always something that's under construction with the amount of units we have, so I have to manage the construction, manage the leases. So I take care of. We have some. We still have a decent amount of residential. We have like 30 some odd residentials. So I take care of the residentials.
Okay.
And then I am partners in another 21 or 22 now, and they're different type of properties. So the ones I manage are the one-offs. Like I have some Pet Supplies Plus building. Okay, that I have tenants there. I have Subway buildings. I have some jet buildings.
Okay,
and those I kind of take care of and I'll manage. But then I'm an investor in about 18 or 20 different type of properties, and some are office buildings. We only have one actually, thank God. But we have retail centers from anywhere from 10 to 250,000 square feet.
Which makes a ton of sense based on your background.
Right. We have a lot of one-offs, so like nail salons, Henry Ford Optimize. We have Subway, like I said.
That's
Subway,
interesting. As we get into your story, I want to ask you more about that because it's interesting how you got into that model, because I've never really thought or heard of someone talk about getting into that model versus you hear so much about residential and or just commercial leases, right?
So I have 3 apartment buildings that I'm partners in. Okay. Yep. But so what I've done is I've got myself wrapped around with good people. Okay. So anything in life, you want to be with good people. I don't care if it's a team, if it's your friends, or if it's business. Okay. If you get around good people, good things will happen. Okay. So I have a partner that's been with me for 20 years, Harvey Salway, who is my mentor, I would say. Great guy. He was the CEO of Pet Supplies Plus, attorney by trade. And for some reason, we come from different spectrums, different worlds. He was highly educated, Jewish background, and I went to high school and from the east side of Detroit, okay?
Yeah.
And for some reason, we hit it off, and we figured out we wanted to be partners, and we did become partners, and quite a bit, probably 20 things right now. And he always, he knew we each had our own role. So I knew that if I had some kind of a law issue, leases, whatever, he could take care of these high level things, and I would be the operator.
Yeah.
If it's the pet stores or some of the restaurants we own and or some of the properties.
Yeah.
So, that's just one example of a good person to be around.
For sure.
Right. So I know that I'm not the smartest guy around, but I know that I can put myself around smart people. Okay.
Very smart.
And I would say to anybody, like, there's always somebody smarter than you. Okay. And so I was fortunate enough to get with some really good people that their forte was, real estate at high level, being apartments or shopping centers or industrial centers, which we have all these.
Yeah.
So because I would go along with the program, I don't rock the boat. I become an investor. Yeah, they ask me for some ideas or what my thoughts are, but
mostly money,
right? But the point is that when I get a deal from some of these people, if it's Steve Elkin, it's in Colorado, if it's Justin Busolato is on the east side of Detroit, I vet it for like real quick, and I'll go and I'll give him an answer like, they'll say, let me know in a week. I said, I'll let you know tomorrow. And I can tell if the deal's good or not. And I know the track record of these people. So they're smarter than I am when it comes to some of this stuff. So I'll go along. And so that's what I've learned is I've learned put yourself, and even people that work for me, okay, like they can do these functions better than I can do at this point. So I know that if I put, like with Brian Verkest, who's been with us 1990, right? He was in high school. He just graduated from high school, was going to college, went to U of M Dearborn, and he never left me. And I told him that if you stay long enough, we're going to make some good things happen for you. And it has. So, you have to do good things for people if they do good things for you, right?
Yeah.
So, that's what I've thought. My father told me that years ago. He said, make sure you put yourself around good people because good people will do good things for you.
Yeah.
And in return, you're doing something for them as well.
For sure. Well, let's be honest. You gave him the opportunity in the first place. So you started with a good act first.
Right.
And he returned it over time.
Right. But I went in, like my partner Harvey hooked me up with this guy, Steve. They were best friends forever since college, and they're in their 70s now. And Steve will call me, like he calls me, he says, do you want to be in the deal? Like I'm in with, you should see the people that are in these deals. I mean, we're so opposite. It couldn't be different, but we get along. We're great. And I'm so fortunate that I have these people in my life.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. Incredible advice. All right. So guys, obviously we've set the landscape of all the great things that you're doing now and all the great people that you have around you, the teams that you've built and the career that you've built for yourself and for your family. So it's obviously an amazing feat that you've accomplished at this point. So what I want to do now is humanize you a little bit, take you back to day one, ground zero, when you had nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's a very unconventional story. It's not the story you'd hear about someone going to college and working their way through the ranks. So we'll start back. I grew up in Warren, very middle income, had a great life. My dad was a grocer at something called Chatham Supermarkets, which some people might remember.
Yeah.
And my mom stayed home. And I had I would say a very normal life in Warren. Played baseball at the church, St. Malachi, played hockey at the local Warren Hockey Association, and that was my life. So went to school and never was a fan of school, which, my parents always would, beat me up. It's like, hey, you got to do well. And I go,
I know we were getting into this. I want to hear a little bit about your mindset.
I would tell my parents, I said, well, I'll be fine. Don't worry. And I never did any homework and I always got B's and C's. Okay. So if I would have applied myself, actually my partner, Harvey, who was trained as an attorney, he goes, Jeffrey, he always calls me Jeffrey. He goes, if you went to college, you could have been something. I just laugh at him, because I go, Harvey, well,
So, a lot more in the tank is what he's saying, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, I grew up in Warren, did that. And I lived there till I was 15. And my uncle, so if we go backwards, both my grandfathers worked in the auto. My grandfather, Antonio, came in when he was 19 years old from Italy, and my dad's dad, and he worked at Chrysler. He didn't have good health, so he was always in and out with disability. And then my dad came from the east side, and so did my mother. My grandfather worked for Joe D'Angelo, worked for Uniroyal, which was a tire company, and retired, and he was always a go-getter. And at 63 or 4, whatever it was, he opened up a restaurant on Jefferson, across from the plant. And I would go down there and I'd watch what's going on. I go, this is cool. You see this money coming in, people getting served, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of cool. And
was that your early beginnings?
That was the first. Yeah, that was the first that I said, wow, business might be cool. This is cool. And so anyway, then my uncle, his son, Pete D'Angelo, who's one of my best friends in the world as of today still, he's 73 or 4. And he opened up a pizzeria in Lake Orion called, it was a chain back in the 60s and 70s called Dino's Pizza, which was number one pizza chain in Detroit and had more locations than Little Caesars until the guy got too big for his britches and lost control of the company. Everybody disenfranchised, and the story is, obviously Little Caesars, boom, and they took it. They took all the market.
Interesting.
So,
and what was that connection? I missed that.
So the connection is my uncle opened up this Dino's Pizza franchise.
Got it.
Okay?
A franchise.
It was about 50, 60 stores.
Got it.
So so that was 1977. So I would have been in 7th grade probably. So I'd get dropped off on Friday. My mom would drop me off at 14 Orion, and I would stay with Pete, work all Lake Orion all weekend long, and then go back home on Sunday. And so that's what gave me the itch of, wow, this is cool. So
and that's when you started to have, I think what I've picked up on from a number of conversations that I've had is you started thinking about the real world earlier than a lot of people, maybe, right? Because I think a lot of kids just get so caught up in the world of, I'm at school, I'm kicking the soccer ball around. You're already thinking about
what's sad is I still was playing hockey. I played hockey till I couldn't play anymore because I had an injury. So I played till I was 15. I still play beer league and all that, but I couldn't play competitive anymore. I was walking home from school, and one of my best friends and I were screwing around, and he was like trying to show off in front of this girl, and then boom, I hit him in the mouth. He started bleeding. He hit me in the eye, and I had an orbital blowout. So I had 2 surgeries. My eye still doesn't move up or down, and but you learn to adjust. No big deal. But so I didn't play hockey anymore. So I kind of like got into this working thing, and I loved it. I loved going out there.
That's an interesting part to your story because it got you into real life quicker than most kids.
Because I probably would have played hockey all the way through high school. Okay?
And that would have been more of a focus versus thinking about
and
the other.
Maybe everything would have changed. Maybe I would have got more focused on school. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I got focused on this work thing, and I started out at $1.25 an hour washing dishes. He'd never let me make a pizza until I was tall enough to look over the counter, which took a long time. So by the time I was in 9th grade, I started making pizzas, and I started closing the store before I had a car. So we moved out to Rochester in 1989.
Okay.
So my mom would come pick me up at midnight during the week, and I'd still go to school the next day. And anyway, so I did that all the way through high school, and I knew what I was going to do. I knew that I was going to have a pizzeria. Luckily, I always made a lot of money working at the pizzeria for a kid. You know, I was making $300-$400 a week.
When you were working more than anybody else, so it makes a ton of sense.
So I never went to a baseball game. I never went to a football game. Okay. I never went to a dance. I never did any function that was at the school. The only thing I ever did, I did go to the prom. That was the only thing I did in high school. All my friends were going here, there, and everywhere. I never did any of that stuff. I worked.
I was going to say, if you could give some advice to people watching home, obviously I'm sure you don't recommend, hey, miss everything.
So I don't think what I did was probably the proper way of doing it.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
But I do think it was what I wanted to do, and my parents were fine with it because that's what I wanted to do.
Well, I just want to get into maybe your thought process of why it would be worth it to miss what was going on in the moment for your future.
So if you want to have a car, if I wanted to have a car, if I wanted to put gas in the car, I had to work. Okay. I didn't get a car. I didn't get insurance paid for. I was a couple $100 short, $500 short on buying my first car. My dad gave it to me. I paid him back. So my focus was always to get a car, and I had a car before I was 16. I never went to any of that stuff. But to your point or to your question, I think you have a balance. Like I didn't balance it out. Okay.
Yeah.
I probably should have maybe once a month done some of this stuff, but I didn't. But I had good friends, and we're still good friends today from Rochester Adams. And but yeah, today I think there's too much focus on like got to be popular, got to be at the right spot at the right time, got to show everything on social media. I think it's a deterrent to kids today, and I think it's a bad thing. And I think that parents, I don't care what economic level, you got to have your kid work. My kids worked. I let them do whatever they wanted, but they worked. They worked at a golf course, and my daughter worked at Jimmy John's Field and worked at bank. So you got to work. It's not for really the money. It's for you got to have a balanced life. And if you're going through college or high school and you're doing all these social things, and then you go to college, you're doing all these social things. Guess what? When you graduate, the real world happens, right?
Yeah.
You got to go to work.
Yeah.
You got to punch the clock. And today, more kids are calling in sick, or more young adults are calling in sick than they ever before. They don't want to go work in the office, which is crazy. I have a juice shop, a Beyond Juicer and Eatery that we opened right before COVID, February before COVID, at Renson. It was number one store in the chain for 3 weeks, 18 days. Okay. And it's been mothballed since then. Why? There was 14,700 people in that place every day. Okay. The size of a little larger than the size of Clarkston. Today, less than 2,000. We can't function. We can't stay in business. We cannot make money. We're not paying rent to GM, but we never see anything really positive coming from that. If they do not make these people go back to work. Okay.
Wow.
So how does that stem back to all this stuff from high school and doing all these things? Kids, especially during COVID, people didn't have to go to work. And, I know that people say they work just as hard as they do, but let's face it, right? You want to go walk your dog, you want to do a load of laundry, you want to watch something on TV, you can push something until whenever you want to push it.
Yeah.
So I think we're going sideways. That's my thought on the world today. But
yeah, I mean, fortunately though, I mean, I hope the people, especially the people that are going to be watching this type of content, are going to be the people that are invested in wanting to find out how they can change things, right? And what you're talking about is more what's going on with society as a whole. And hopefully the people that do have interest in, like you said, maybe they did have a background where they don't have much of a choice and they want to get out of that environment, and you're giving them great advice to be able to do that.
Well, so I just think today I see these moms and I see these dads and what they do with their kids, and like you got to have adversity and you got to have things that you don't want to do in life, and you got to do them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when you get to the real world, you won't be able to function. You won't be able to.
You're going to deal with them either way.
Yeah, right.
So you either start to learn with it. You start to learn about how to deal with it at 13, or you start doing it at 24, and it's really tough doing it at that age.
And I knew back in 13, 14, I knew what had to happen. I knew, like when we were at the business, I would see my uncle there, and I knew how much we were bringing in. He goes, "Wow, we're going to be late this week," or we'd had a great week, and I knew what was happening with money, and money always was like, I always thought it was important to make a lot of money, and I've made a lot of money in my life, and I've lost a lot of money in my life, and money is only it's only a tool, okay? Yeah. And it's a tool to buy things and make yourself comfortable, but it doesn't make you happy. So when people say, if I had all this money, I'd be so happy, no, you won't, because you have to make yourself happy, and you have to do things for yourself to make yourself happy.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think during those years, I mean, you have to, it's at a different point in your life when you're young, and honestly, the stakes are pretty low. I think that's the biggest reality that people should maybe grasp at home is you'd rather learn those hard, difficult, and make those mistakes when you're 13, 14, 15, 16 than when the stakes are higher and you have to go pay to live on your own. Eventually, you're going to have a wife and kids, and that's going to sneak up on you quickly, right? You'd rather learn all those lessons and be ahead of the game at a young age versus having to learn all that stuff when you're
I mean, if you're a parent and your kid doesn't want to go to work on a Friday night, and you have to make them go to work.
Yeah.
That's part of life.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't see it as being as prevalent or as important in people's life as it was when I was growing up or my parents were growing up.
No doubt it's changed for sure. All right. So let's talk about those years then.
So we opened up the pizzeria.
Yep.
And kind of weird. I signed the lease before I graduated.
So you that was your first business, huh?
Yeah. So it was a pizzeria, a little carry out. I had 10 seats, 12 seats in there.
Was this a franchise as well, or was this your own thing?
It was called JB's Pizza Stop. It was 18 to Quinder.
Okay.
I opened up September, I think it was 9th or something. So it would have been, all my friends are going to college, and I'm opening up this restaurant.
Wow.
So I saved up enough money, and my dad was good enough to get me a loan and sign the loan because obviously I couldn't. So it cost $57,000 to open it. I had 10, so I had a $47,000 note.
Yep.
Paid it back to Liberty State Bank in 5 years. Whatever the payment was, $600 a month or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we paid it all back. We did pretty good. I was there from 1982 to 1988. I opened up a second store at 15 in Ryan that I bought. I paid cash for it. Didn't work out, so I resold it for a little more than after a year later. And I went back and I just managed the one. And I knew that probably this wasn't my life for good, okay? Because, like I said, I met my wife in 1985, so I was at this pizzeria, and like I had a real unconventional life. I would work 7 days a week. We open it and I'd get there at 10. We'd close at midnight or 2 on the weekends. So it was hard to like go
do
out.
anything.
Thing, yeah. So my wife would work at MBD right here in Rochester on the corner, which now is Chase. And so a lot of the week she would come over on Friday. She'd come over and she'd run the register for me, and she did a great job, and I appreciate it. She wasn't getting paid, but she figured, if I come over, maybe we can get out of there a little earlier. But we only could get out of there.
You guys were dating at the time?
Yeah. We only could get out of there when like the rush was over. Okay. So,
how old were you guys at this time?
85. I would have been 21.
Okay. So your first couple, pretty much when everybody else would be in college, this is what you were.
Yeah. So I was 21. She was 19. Okay.
Got it.
She didn't go to school either. Her father passed away the July of 85, and she was supposed to go to college, and she didn't go because she wanted to help her mom stay. And she did some part-time college at OU and OCC and OU. But anyway, so she would come over. She was hardworking. She worked over like I said, at the bank, and she'd work with me till whenever, and then we'd go out, and that was what we did. And we did that week in, week out. And a lot of weeks I would come over, which is Cruise and Mirror right here on Main, and I'd meet her at 9 o'clock with her friends that were over at the bank, and then they'd stick me with the bill. So, we did that as well. So anyway, fast forward.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what made you think I want to learn a little bit about that situation.
Well, I didn't think that was going to be long-term.
No. What made you open up the second location in the first place?
Because everybody thinks I can do this. I can do this. I can do this.
I can replicate what
I can
we've
do
done
this.
here.
Well, it's not that easy, and I figured it out. It wasn't that easy. I had an operator.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is it team oriented?
Yeah,
or
I had
what
a
was the
guy
issue?
that was going to do it, and we went down there, and I don't think it was any fault of his. We just didn't succeed. And part of the problem was it was at 15 Orion, and the first Jets was at 14 Orion. Okay. So I figured, well, we could compete against those guys, which I knew them. I've known them forever. And I figured, well, I can compete. It's, whatever. And, but I couldn't compete there. So after a year, I threw in the towel. I sold it, and I got my money back plus, and I chalked it up as experience, went back and did it till 1988. And I figured that this is not I don't think this is something I want to do. Opportunity came up to buy something else. But in that 6 years, I guess it would have been, 82 to, in the 6 years I had bought this pizzeria, I paid that one off. I had 10 rental houses with my partner, Pete.
That's a big jump. Yeah, okay, so tell me a little bit about this.
So I had 10 rental houses with my uncle, Pete, which was the guy I did the pizzeria with, the pizza business with, my uncle.
Okay.
And we had 10 rental houses. I built a brand new condo on Walton Boulevard, and it's still there today. I still actually own there. It's called Huntington Park.
Okay.
And then I had a new car. So I was doing pretty good,
Yeah. How'd you get involved in the real estate? You're skipping over
I wanted to do real estate. I always wanted to do real estate. Like
okay.
Everybody I know in life always made their money in real estate. Okay. So my uncle.
Where did you learn all these useful tools though? Because it sounds like
because I knew my father worked for a bunch of guys that were great guys that were very successful that had a main business and parlayed it into real estate.
Got it.
Okay. So Joe Krinsky and Harry Shalop were two guys that I knew very well that my father worked with, and I were very, very wealthy guys. And Harry Shalop's name will come up here shortly on another story. And I always saw they're buying this, they're buying that, they're doing this, they're doing that. But they had the main business, okay?
Yeah.
And that's what kind of...
It's almost like the security.
Yeah, right. So like Pet Supplies Plus was my business, right?
Yeah.
But the pizza thing, I didn't think that I wanted to do that my whole life.
So when did you get your first, or when did you guys get your first property then after the pizza place?
Oh boy, probably within 6 months of opening.
Oh wow!
You got to remember, though, we were buying properties for $30,000-$40,000 back then.
Yeah.
Okay, and you were talking 1985, 6, whatever. Or I'm sorry, in 1982.
But at the end of the day, to your credit, you're still investing it.
Right.
At
So
21 years old, thinking about investing.
I was living at home, okay, and I start making money about a year into the deal. I was making really good money by year 2 and 3. Like my goal in life was always make $100,000. Okay, that was my goal when I was a kid, probably like 14. My goal, if I make $100,000, I'm going to be like a millionaire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I did that. I was probably 20. Okay. Start making over 100,000 when I was 20. But I worked my ass off, man. I mean, I killed it. I was working all the time. And so I lived at home. I had no bills. I had a car payment, $140 a month or something. And I always loved cars. So that was my downfall. I always bought a new car like crazy. New car this year. But it's still, they weren't expensive. It was like $10,000, $15,000 for a car,
Yeah.
And that was
but
my
in
only
perspective,
bill. In perspective,
yes. wise.
Yeah. That was my only bill. And
yeah.
my parents were great. They could live. They were so upset when I moved out. I didn't tell them. I went over there and at the sales trailer, they were building these condos. And I put a deposit down and I told them, I was 21. And I came home and I said, I'm going to be moving in about 5 months. And they, where are you going? I told them, they go, oh, that's a huge mistake. And I go, why? They go, well, you're living here for free and you're never home, blah, blah, blah. I go, well, I want my own place, So I did it and it worked out fine. I ended up living there for, till 1990. And
wow.
So it was a nice place to live and great. So
you started off, I'm just going to kind of forecast back to everything we went over. So you started the initial pizza place, started making some good money, started investing in real estate at that point early.
Yeah.
Opened the second place, didn't work out.
So good. Yeah.
Sold it.
Still had the properties.
Still had the properties, kept chugging along because obviously income was at that point, that was your main income, and you're investing to create some recurring revenue for what you're going to bring in from the real estate.
So all of a sudden I had some reason I didn't want to do pizza anymore. I got to do something. I got to do something better than this with my life. Not that there was anything wrong with it, but I still have a Jets Pizza today in New York. So nothing wrong with it, but I said, oh. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I probably should have went into real estate. That's probably what I should have done. Commercial real estate.
You're saying that way
I should have
started.
Like I should have been in sales, and then I could, you get involved in deals.
Yeah.
But my father had this bakery distributorship that he would distribute to, like back in the day, Great Scott, Kroger, a lot of independents. It was a big business on 8 Mile. And Joe Krinsky and Harry Shalp said, we're out. We're going to sell it. And my dad said, this would be a perfect opportunity. So I sold the pizzeria, and I went there in May. And I'm getting married now. I start there in May. I'm getting married. April, or I started there February or March. That's what it was. Getting married in May.
And this is
in 1989. Okay.
And you would have been what, 26, 7 or 8?
26.
Yeah.
So I go there, and I'm working. I start working on the trucks. I work in the warehouse. I want to learn the business. So my dad said, you got to learn right from the ground up. Of course, that's what you do. I do all this. I do sales. I do office work, everything. And I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool. And you work with independent drivers, and so you don't really have a lot of employees, maybe 100 employees there. It was great. So we get a call. We're supposed to close, I don't know, let's say, I think we're supposed to close in May. We get a call in April, and these guys are having a banner year. They don't want to do it. Their deal's off. So my dad tells me, I go, like I blow up, like I lose it. And I go, well, what am I going to do now? I'm not going to work for $600 a week.
Yeah.
That was what I was making. Like I'm going $600 a week. It's like, nothing. And I had a good business, and I go, then I'm starting to get like panicky. Like I gave up a good business. I did, and so I only know 2 things, or actually 1 thing, pizza. Like I don't know nothing else.
Yeah.
Like I don't know anything else, right? I'm pretty much employable at this point. So I'm getting married in May. Tell my wife, and like, what are we going to do, right? So she goes, well, she didn't want me to go back in the pizza thing. So Harry Shallop, which his name came up, it was one of the partners that bailed on us. Harry started in 1988, a thing called Pet Supplies Plus. Okay. So he had a vision. He was out in Arizona, where PetSmart started. And he saw how PetSmart was. And you know what a PetSmart typically is, like a warehouse type. It's huge, right?
Yep.
So he wanted to do that idea because Harry he had a rawhide company, imported rawhide and trinks and toys and things like that back from, at the time it was Asia, or Mexico, I'm sorry. And so he always wanted to open a pet store, but he didn't have an operator. So he got an operator named Jack Barry, and they opened up a store at 5 Mile and Telegraph in Redford. So this was summer of or spring maybe of 88. So I go there, it's just open. So I go by there, and my dad goes, why don't you go look at this place? I go, all right. So I go there, and I go, wow, I like this. This is cool. Like I think I could do this. Like, because now I understand a little bit about the retail, and I could work, no problem. I think this is great. So then they open a second store in Woodhaven. So every time I see Harry's BMW out front, I run up to his office, and I go, Harry, can I open one of those stores? And he goes, no, Jeff, you can't. I go, why? He goes, because we're just starting. I don't know what's going to happen. I did this relentless. He was there probably 3 days a week, every day. Harry, can I open one of them stores? So I beat him down enough where he goes, listen, we're not making any money. The first store is like doing okay. The second store is losing money. We're not doing anything. The stores were only 4,000 or 5,000 square feet at the time.
Okay.
But they had a vision, and the vision was like a grocery store for pets. And Jack Barry was a grocer, and he put the store together with Harry and him being partners. And I thought it was an unbelievable concept because at the time there was only mom and pop pet stores, like a typical mom and pop pet store.
Yeah.
And so I bugged him. Took me about 2 months. I wore him down. He swore at me, and he goes, if you want to do it, I don't know what's going to happen. He goes, you could lose everything. I go, you go to the east side, and we'll sign a license agreement, and you give me $2,000 a month. I go, okay. Not knowing what any of this is going to cost or do or what, So I find a spot in St. Clair Shores on 12 and a half and Harper. I buy all used equipment, and my dad and some of his guys and my friends and everything, we all put it together, and we open up. So at this point, my wife's working at MBD. I have a house payment. I have no income. I'm training at Pet Supplies Plus. I have no car because I had a company car. So my dad was selling my sister's car and getting her new car. So I bought this, I think it was a Daytona for $2,000. That was my car. And my wife I had bought an Audi. That was my car. That was hers. And
I was going to say, what happened to all the fancy sports cars from the
so
pizza days?
I gave her that car, and we had so our bills were the mortgage and the car payment probably were about $1,500, $2,000 a month. So we get this store. It costs about $120,000 to open. I take all my money that I had, threw it in, and my dad. So went in. I was 2/3, 1/3. My dad, and I brought him along because I needed his guidance, number one, and he'd never worked in the stores. And that'll come down the line here, but for the financing and signed and all that. So we got loans and we did it, and I had $5,000 in the bank. So my wife goes, "What are we going to do here?" Her family thinks I'm absolutely out of my mind opening a pet store. They're all Italian off the boat, going, "This guy's lost his mind," what pet store? It was huge. It was 5,000 square feet. That was big for back then, but
yeah.
And so we have like 3-4 months of holding power here. And my wife's still working at MBD. So she goes, "What are we going to do?" I go, "Well, it'll be okay," not knowing what the hell is going to happen. So we open up November 12th, 1989. I'll never forget it. It's a Sunday. And I go in there, and it's like we were giving stuff away. Okay. It's so busy. The very first week. Now, the other two stores are doing about $15,000 a week. Very first week, 29.7. So we open up. I go, I got a breather here. So I go 2 weeks. We do a little more. 3 weeks, I go, I can take a paycheck now because we're cash flowing. I know we're going to cash flow. We're going to do fine here. So I take $600 a week, $700 a week. And it's enough to like just get by.
To do what you need
to live, So it keeps going. It keeps growing and growing and growing. So it's 1989. So we get into 1990. We're doing $70,000 a week, I think, at that point. At 1 year, we're doing like $70,000, and at year 2, we're doing 80.
So what's that math?
3.5.
Holy smokes!
So year 2, we're doing like 85,000. Okay, it's crazy. Like I'm not kidding you. I had 21 cars parking, and all my employees were parked in the alley. I'd pay for offsite parking. I had somebody on the weekends with a flag, no kidding, directing traffic. That's how busy it was.
You